November 4th, 2010 is the 5th annual observance of Morgan Hill Community Philanthropy Day, and whereas the observance recognizes individuals, organizations, and businesses who, by their contributions of time, talent, and treasure, enrich our community, and whereas Philanthropy Day acknowledges the entire spectrum of services provided by the community and the impact of society today. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Steve Tate, Mayor of Morgan Hill, on behalf of the City Council and its citizens, proclaim November 4th as Morgan Hill Community Philanthropy Day and urge all our residents of the community to recognize the tradition of philanthropy as it continues to improve and enhance the lives of those in our community by promoting the common good. And so that's the formal proclamation, which is expresses, I think, very strongly, about Philanthropy Day and what it does. But from a more personal basis, I love this event. I just really love this event because we're heading into the holiday season. We're getting ready for Thanksgiving, and we're thanking people that have given so much. We're heading into the time of the year where we get our own personal giving together, the spirit of giving that comes with the holiday season. And we get to see examples. And as I look across this room, there's not a person I see in this room that could not be celebrated, be one of the honorees today, because you all do so much to boost and make this community a better place.
Those of you who've been here before have known that we've had a tremendous array of folks that have spoken to us about throughout the years about philanthropy and what it means to give back to the community, what philanthropy means to them. I can't be any more excited and honored to introduce today's speaker. This is a gentleman who, in many ways, is the heart and one of the key founders of the Morgan Hill Community Foundation. Beyond that, he really constantly thinks about how do we give to the community, how do we give back to the community. And I'm sure many of you in the room could speak much more eloquently and much longer, and probably with some very good stories about it, which I won't impart upon you. But I'm really excited about having Greg Sellers as our speaker today, let him talk a little bit about, especially as he leaves the public office that he's held, to talk a little bit about what philanthropy means to him, what this day means, and really his thoughts on our community and the spirit of giving in our community. So with that, Greg.
Appreciate the introduction, David, and I have to admit, when they first asked me to speak, I thought, goodness, this is only year 5, they're already running out of good speakers. Far down the list and they go. But it prompted me to start thinking about, to the degree to which I've had the opportunity to be part of this community, how that has really manifested itself, and to what degree I've actually had any success in being able to do some good work. And first of all, I'd be remiss in not pointing out so many of the people that are being shown here are people who are friends, mentors, people that have shown me through their own efforts how significant philanthropic endeavors can be and what it means really to give back to your community. For me, starting successful philanthropic endeavors, like any successful undertaking, really require a degree of self-assessment. Well, what kind of person are you, and how can you use your unique skills and to give back to the community? And for me, that meant kind of looking at who I was, and I tend to be really good at starting things not as good at doing all the detail as it moves down the road. So while I would be a good person to plant the vines, you're not going to want me to go water them over the years, because I'll probably forget and they'll wither and it's not as prosperous. And so kind of keeping with today's theme. So given that, for me, it was always a focus on starting things, trying to get things underway. A few of the things, Taste of Morgan Hill. I want to point out in the program it indicates that I'm more involved in the Downtown Association than I have been. I'm thrilled that George is leading that effort with a great board. I'm thrilled to be doing my part to help that. But I was able to start, when I was the head of the Downtown Association 20 years ago, Taste of Morgan Hill. And it's such a great sense of pride going through that festival every year and seeing what it's come up and seeing groups like work. There were two things that we said when we started Taste of Morgan Hill. We wanted local as much as possible to feature our downtown businesses. But we set aside a half a block from the first year, and it maintains to this day, of community organizations, so that they could just come out and point out some of the great work they do in the community. Work has always been there every year, and I'm always thrilled to see that. To my kids, it's a highlight to see their work and the beautiful animals that they bring to the event. So that was one of the events. Leadership Morgan Hill was also thrilled to have been on the founding board of Leadership and led their Sacramento trip for several years. That was a great endeavor, and one that I've always been proud to participate in and look at the fruits of their label through Art a la carte, and every year is a new and incredible event. I was asked some number of years ago to be on the founding board of the charter school of Morgan Hill. My kids weren't thinking that, my oldest didn't think that he'd want to transfer at the time. He ended up going there, and it's been part of our own lives. But regardless, it was a new endeavor and an opportunity to expand educational opportunities in our community. And certainly for me, one of the greatest opportunities that I had was the opportunity through Mayor Kennedy asked if I would help start a community foundation in Morgan Hill. And I said, yeah, well, and talking to Susie, my wife, I said, well, listen, we had to make a promise, and all of us who started it made a promise. Two things. There's two things, Steve. There's always with me two things. One of them was we would get this job done in a year. And two, none of us who were going to start this group were going to be part of it once it got underway. So that was a great charge, and it was one that we could then go back to our families, and Janie Knopf and Vivian Varela and the other spouses could reassure that we weren't going to continue beyond that. So what it ended up doing was we spent a lot of time reaching out into the community, and we ended up finding people who were outstanding. And I always knew from hearing from folks as a council member that there were great people out there that really the resources that hadn't been tapped because they hadn't really given an opportunity. Certainly at the top of that list for me is Dave Reisenauer, who began with the organization, was quickly identified by his peers as an appropriate leader of the group, and has continued to do that to this day. And I know as professional responsibilities mount Dave, it's become a difficult charge, but hopefully one that you will continue with. It's certainly meant a tremendous amount to our community. So once I got elected to the council a dozen years ago, I kind of continued on that charge, and we have had an incredible run in the city of Morgan Hill. We've built more new facilities in the last decade than in the previous 100 years, and they've all, to me, thinking again about this planting the seeds and seeing where they'll go. Every time we built a new facility, it wasn't just a building that could have some utilitarian usage. It ended up fostering these incredible organizational and community benefits that we really oftentimes usually could not have foreseen when we first created them. For instance, here in this building alone, not only is this a place for us to meet and gather and have large luncheons, it's a home for Gavilan College. It's a home for South Valley Civic Theater, and certainly a home for Friday night music and as well. All these different events that couldn't have really prospered in different organizations. The Aquatic Center, the same thing. We've got the Recreation Center, I think is my favorite partnership, and one that's been recognized nationally. We had a great partnership with the YMCA for years because they really had the only recreation option for our residents for quite a few years. And when we built the Recreation Center, we said, well, we don't want to lose that partnership, but we have an obligation because it's a community, a taxpayer facility, not to either turn it over to any other organization outside of the city. So we created a partnership that's very unique. And as I said, has been looked at by organizations throughout the nation, in which both organizations prosper. We take the best of the city, the best of the Y, combine them together, and have created an incredible facility. There are more, and as I pointed this out before the election, we have more members, people who participate at the recreation center than we do voters in the city of Morgan Hill. And I always mention that when folks are running for office, to keep that in mind. And certainly, my wife teaches on Friday night. She has a great class, a Zumba class that I went to once, and it took me a week to recover. I encourage you to do the same if you have a week to recover. It's an incredible class. But you go there on a Friday night, and there's no doubt but that it is an amazing facility that is very, very well used. The outdoor sports complex, the skateboard park, which the dog park, which I need to mention really quickly, was a partnership that we really got pushed as a city. Hey, we need this facility. And we were pushed by a nonprofit. And the nonprofit was allowed to exist in no small part because the Community Foundation had created a place for tiny little nonprofits could become, go through the legal process and go through all the paperwork required to become a legal entity so that they could exist, even a small one like Morgan Hill Dog, which has done a tremendous job and really pushed the city to create that asset. Our library, we have groups like Friends of the Library, police station, downtown acquisitions are all entities that have significant community involvement. So those, to me, like I said, was the fruits of our labor, much more than building, much more than building facilities. We're really utilizing those resources to build communities. Over the last 12 years, there's been a few maxims that I've lived by that have really helped out, and I thought it would be worth mentioning a few of them today. One of the things, I haven't really told anybody this, in fact, even my wife, but the very first meeting I went to as a council member, we have a moment of silence, and I told myself that I really needed to stay focused and do the right thing. And so every meeting after that, I remind myself that I need to stay focused and do the right thing. And staying focused is not just, listening to all 20 minutes of the staff report when it's 10:30 at night and you're really know this issue really well. It's not just staying focused on those things, but it's staying focused on what it is that you in particular need to be doing and what things you really need to focus on as an individual. Oftentimes we have a habit as council members of straying into other territories and helping staff a little too much with their jobs, but really staying focused. And second thing is doing the right thing, which is something that is I've thought about a lot. When I went to graduate school, I did my graduate work in public policy, and I did my graduate work on ethics, and came to the conclusion that ethics was never something that you did and then moved on to other things. I checked that box. I'm now ethical, and I'm going to move on. It is a process, and it's critical that you create an ethical framework within which you operate constantly. And over the years, there have been times when I have stepped aside on an issue that technically or legally I didn't need to do. But if there was any doubt whatsoever, I always felt like there was an obligation not to overstep your bounds. A few other things that I've tried to live by and emphasize. One, it's amazing what you can get done if you don't worry about who gets the credit. Some of the best things that I've been part of are things that I didn't get credit for, but knew that if they weren't that they wouldn't take place. Or they're little tiny things. There is, if you walk down this hallway, molding all the way up and down, not mold, molding, which is a minor little thing. I grew up in a family of artists. I have no artistic talent, so I ended up in politics. My brother, though, is an incredible artist, and family's been involved owning galleries. And we knew that if you put the proper molding that you could create up and down on the wall, you would actually utilize that wall space for a variety of uses and you wouldn't be tearing it up. Sounds like a minor thing, but it was something that I was able to add to this facility. And so now we have a constant displays of artwork throughout the facility, and it was those kinds of things that you just think about that are minor but make a huge difference. Another one is, and I wish that our electeds, our legislative bodies would listen to this one, 80% of something good is better than 100% of nothing. You're drawing lines in the sand, you're not bringing people together, and it's easy to stand on the sidelines. We hear it too often. Last night we had folks that wanted us to just draw a line in the sand and take a stand and not participate in and a process. Whenever you do that, you're taking yourself out of the discussion, but more importantly, you're creating an atmosphere that's far more volatile and less about getting things done than about stating a position. And I think hopefully we're starting to get away from that a little bit. I think the voters have been telling all of the electeds to start doing that. Third one, do the right thing even when friends don't support you, and you'll find out who your real friends are. I realized after my first term ended that I had voted against friends on pretty much once on any of my good friends. We had disagreed on at least one thing over the course of the 4 years, and that's been consistent. But you have to stay true to a vision that you have and not really capitulate to merely to friendships or other things. And I think people will gain a significant respect for you if you do that, and that certainly carries through philanthropic endeavors as well. I have always balked when people say, and we've seen a lot of turnover as our electeds, and people say, well, it's too bad that Senator so-and-so's career was cut short. Nobody should ever have a career as an elected official in my mind. That's an opportunity to serve. And this is something that's very interesting because I think we talk about career politicians, and on the other hand, quite frankly, we don't, elected officials aren't considered to be folks participating in philanthropic endeavors. They're considered to be a separate entity, and they're not really contributing to the community. But I think if people are, as electeds, are doing their job right, that they are definitely philanthropically participating. And conversely, if folks think of it as a career and are looking for their next step, they don't have the right priorities as an elected official. And finally, people who know me know that I'm, prone to getting emotional and I have things that I care about. But it's to me nothing. I don't care about anything more than family. And you need to understand that your family and your career, and certainly in my case it's true, will both be impacted by your endeavors. And certainly everybody here can think about, well, all the time I spent with Kiwanis, or all the time that I spent doing the efforts that I did really impact my family life. You need to keep that perspective, never lose sight of what's important in your life, but also understand that you're helping as a community, you're helping your family and you're helping the community. People have been asking me a lot the last few days, now that they know I'm finally going to be leaving, whether I'm going to miss being in public office. And it's really interesting because I can honestly say that I won't. It's time for me to step away for a few years. I certainly anticipate that there may be opportunities in the future to continue serving, and I would certainly love to do that if the opportunity arose that made sense. But it's interesting to me. It's a satisfying time to be walking away, and in no small part because, as I mentioned earlier, I think our politics have become increasingly toxic and fueled by a lot of folks who are more interested in making divisions in our communities and dividing us than by bringing us together. But really, if you think about it, this country was certainly not built on that kind of overheated rhetoric. It was built on hard work and sacrifice and all the virtues that we've seen here today and that we will be hearing more about in a few minutes. So if you want to see if those virtues in practice, you need to look no further than in this room and throughout our community, and look at all the great work that's been done by so many people throughout Morgan Hill and South County. So as I step away from public life, at least temporarily, I'm going to look forward to focusing again on the quiet satisfaction that comes from contributing to my community through participation in the organizations that I've been part of. I'm going to continue my work with the VMC Foundation Board. Continuing my work, I'm thrilled to have been asked to participate on the Community Solutions Board, and I'm continuing to be a member of Morgan Hill Rotary, and look forward to continuing those efforts and expanding those now that I have more time. I want to conclude by saluting everyone in this room who has done all that they can to make these quiet sacrifices every day. The seeds you plant certainly yield a bounty that nourishes us all. Thank you again. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you.
We're going to get things started with the awards here, and I want to remind the folks who are accepting the awards, maybe if you can keep your speech, not too long, no more than a half hour. No, not too long. We want to keep it short so we can get things going. And we're going to start off here with the first award. award is to be presented to the Morgan Hill Community Foundation.
Will be presented by the Morgan Community Foundation, and our honoree, no surprise, is Greg Sellers. In selecting Greg, he touched on it briefly, and very briefly, in terms of his participation in actually forming this organization. I was one of the candidates that the founding members interviewed, and as I was going through that process, really was struck by, as Greg talked about, the sense of devotion and the sense of purpose that the founding members had in forming the organization, and really their vision for what this organization could be. And speaking on behalf of the board, it really has been a touchstone for us to go back and think about the founders in terms of what they envisioned this, and that was in large part conversations that I personally had with Greg in terms of where we're going. You know, the first night that we met as a new board, Greg was there and was introducing to us the ideas and the concepts, and Susan may not want to know this, but he did actually offer to stay on for at least a period of time to help us get going. But you know, he did such a great job in terms of getting this going, getting this moving, and allowing us to really then take it and develop it. But it wasn't without a great deal of insight, a great deal of thought, and a great deal of passion. And I can't say it as well as he did in his speech. But Greg, on behalf of the Board of Directors, we want to thank you for 10 years of insights, contributions, and leadership to the Morgan Hill Community Foundation.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Tate, President of the Historical Society, and our honoree is Bud O'Hare. Bud O'Hare took on the daunting task of sorting out all of our information that is in our research room. He has filed pictures, he has filed books, he has filed papers. He is now the sole owner of where all the skeletons are. But without him, we wouldn't have a fabulous research room that we have. And we're so very, very grateful to him for doing that. And we just wanted to honor him and let you know that he's available by appointment if you need some information. So thank you very much.
Alexa Watanabe. Could you stand up? It is an honor for the City of Morgan Hill to present this award to Alexa Watanabe, Chair of the Youth Action Council, YAC. She started, it's not funny. She started in YAC on July 2007, and she has worked her way up as a YAC chair this fiscal year. She has a high sense of responsibility with YAC projects and its members, and her natural leadership abilities to work with teens and adults. She's involved in a lot of teen-centered activities, and she's one of the co-chairs for the Senior Citizen Bowl, which is one of the most popular events and successful events for YAC. Which, by the way, next one, 2011, is going to be April 8th. So check it, put it on your calendar. Alexis is a mature, talented, humble, and a highly respected young adult. She's dedicated, focused, and a fun-loving person who gets goals and completes the work necessary to be successful. She has a great family and a strong family. Actually, they are here today. So thank you so much for being here and supporting her and the City of Morgan Hill. It is a pleasure and an honor to have Alexa Watanabe as a chair of the Youth Action Council, YAC, from the City of Morgan Hill.
All right, our next.
I'm honored to present the Kiwanis 2010 Volunteer of the Year Award to John Burrell. We're honoring him because of his work in the Fry's Open. He had 23 people, 2,000 chairs, and they all got placed. Everybody had a good time, and I think the sprinklers lost. Is that correct? You'll also be seeing him as announcer for the parade. He doesn't know this because he missed a meeting. Now, John's been with us since 1982. He's been very active in the community. You know him because of he helped establish the Morgan Hill Sports Alliance and the El Toro Youth Group. He's been very active in supporting all our community service activities. And let's see, he's also been mayor, city council, and a few other nice activities for the year. So we're very thankful to have John as part of our organization.
Should never hand me a microphone. And with an audience. I've got you in my palm, thank you. You know, being a volunteer is really a noble thing. And my roots started when I was a young boy. When I first started attending a group called the Variety Boys Club of America, I was 8 years old. And later in life, that inspired me to get involved and help start the El Toro Youth Organization, which has done such a noble job in Morgan Hill reaching out to its youth, along with the Morgan Hill Youth Sports Alliance and others. That's been a great accomplishment in my life, to be a part of these great organizations. Beyond that, I attended with my father years ago. When I was a boy, we used to travel to Texas. And my father would load a trunk full of toys. And he would give these toys to all his nephews and nieces. Later, I got involved with a man that I'm sure you're all familiar with, Ken Tugas. Ken was very instrumental here in starting the Toys for Tots campaign. And he came and approached me and he said, John, do you feel that perhaps the Kiwanis would want to help? We jumped at the opportunity. Volunteering is a great, noble thing, and I would encourage you all to continue to get involved. My inspiration, of course, is my wonderful wife, Vivian, who volunteers. Just ask her, she'll do it. And I want to thank you very much, and it's just a great place to live in Morgan Hill. Thank you.
Hello, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Jan Strad. A few years ago, Jan attended the old MHAT school. She volunteered to become a member of our board of directors not long ago, or quite a long time ago, and immediately became our secretary. She sends out newsletters and dues letters. At our annual picnic, she sets up a booth to sell t-shirts and caps, and also has cookies and soft drinks for the children. She's responsible for setting up an interesting garden in the back of the property where children can learn to plant flowers and vegetables. I think most importantly, she organizes a series of field trips from the various schools, both spring and summer, where children can come out, play in the dirt, and experience a bit of Americana, which they don't get on the paved streets and paved playgrounds in town. I think one of the important things, she gets about approximately 800 students come out and enjoy the old MHAT site. As we're getting close to Christmas, you'll be interested to know that Jan has set up a tradition a few years ago called Caroling at Candlelight. It's going to be held on Sunday, December 19th. It's a very warm feeling there. The school is decorated. There are light refreshments, and I'd like you all to come and meet Jan personally and take part in the Christmas activity. Thank you, Jan.
It's my pleasure today, and Bill, we're going to make you stand too, to honor the Lions Club of Morgan Hill. And representing them today, we have Lenny and Jerry Smith and Maureen and Bill Adams. It's hard to know which way to turn. It's all over. Morgan Hill Lions Club was founded in 1938 with a purpose of giving back to the community. And we're here to thank them for doing that, just that with Community Solutions. Every single month for years, they have very quietly and very loyally made a donation to Community Solutions. And they're part of what allows us to meet our mission of creating opportunities and changing lives. So we just wanted to take this opportunity today to thank you and to honor you for what you do for our community. Thank you.
My name is Joan Ensign. The day that this woman left Sunnyvale and moved to Morgan Hill, well, let me put it this way, it was their loss and our gain. She was on track to be Sunnyvale's branch president, but then she moved here to our community. She thought she was escaping that job. Well, there was another plan in store for her. It is our pleasure to present to you Carol O'Hare, the American Association of University Women's honoree for this year. Many of you know her from Friends of the Library. Many of you know her that she worked at Booksmart. Many of you know that she was Woman of the Year. But you may not know why Carol is such an integral part of our branch. When Carol joined our local branch, she became a member of the board right away. She began as LAF chair, which is the Legal Advocacy Fund at that time. She wrote articles for the newsletter. She kept us informed of court cases involving discrimination against women. This is when I met Carol. We hooked up together, and we had 2 wonderful years as membership VP. We had such a good time that we took on presidency for 2 years together. By this time, Carol is hooked. She goes on to be publicity chair, and you'll note as a side that she was publicity chair for our Wildflower Run, which is coming up April 10th. She was secretary, newsletter proofer, copy editor, and a member of the bylaws committee, which is going on forever. So you can see Carol has donated lots of countless hours, days, weeks, and years to AAUW. Carol is the backbone of our branch. If you need to know something about bylaws or finances, you go to Carol. If you need to have someone help you with a project, you go to Carol because she knows almost everybody in the branch. She's meticulous, detailed, thorough, and loves to have a good time. She always has an opinion and isn't afraid to speak up what she believes in, and we respect her for that. Carol truly loves AAUW, and AAUW loves Carol. You are a real gem. AAUW is proud to have you as a member, and it is our privilege to give you this award.
Hi, I'm Kim Reeves, and I'm the Senior Vice President in United Way Silicon Valley, and we're here today to recognize Jan Bernstein-Shargan for her work with United Way and for her leadership on the South County Outreach Council. Jan has been on the council, I understand, for 3 years, and she has been a critical leader in really making people aware down here in the South County of the critical health and human care needs that exist down here, helping us to educate the community about those needs and what United Way is doing to address them, as well as to organize events that help us engage the community in opportunities to give, volunteer, and advocate. Last year, she took a leadership role in chairing the first annual South County Breakfast, and she will be helping lead our second one, which is scheduled for February 24th, I understand. So we greatly appreciate all the effort that she has put in helping the community down here in both Gilroy and in Morgan Hill, and really, making a difference in terms of getting the community involved in the very critical work that needs to be accomplished down here in this community in order to address the needs. So with that, I want to congratulate her and thank her very much. Gwen, did you want to say?
Yes, just a second. I just wanted you to know that I've known Jan for years, and she has been instrumental in assisting United Way with their outreach down here in South County. That's in Morgan Hill and in Gilroy. And it's been a pleasure and an honor working with such a person who is so committed to community and assisting those that can do without her, they would be doing a lot less. So thank you very much, Jan, and we look forward to continuing our partnership in the next coming years.
Volunteer Morgan Hill, got out of sequence there. Volunteer Morgan Hill.
Well, hello everyone, I'm Victor Gaxiola, and who joined us this past year, who has been part of Volunteer Morgan Hill from the very beginning, because as many of you may know, Volunteer Morgan Hill was actually created as a class project of Leadership Morgan Hill in the class of 2009, which is still the best class. Yeah, see, my alumni. When we created Volunteer Morgan Hill as our class project, one of the stipulations of leadership is for it to be sustainable. And 5 of us took it very seriously, because we took the organization, created a 5-member board, came under the wing of the Community Foundation as a newest Alliance member. We're not even a year old under the Alliance membership, and yet here we are to honor Janice, because any board that has Jeff Dixon and myself, it's like herding cats, okay? So you need someone like Janice, but don't try to take her away, she's ours. And Janice kept us really focused, because whereas we originally spent a lot of our time trying to get our organization off the ground under a sustainable new organization with board and bylaws and all that stuff that comes with being on a board, when it really came down to our signature event is our volunteer fair. And we needed to pull off a successful second volunteer fair, which we had on September 12th, or September 11th this year. And I credit Janice for keeping us all focused on our board and ensuring that it happened. And although it was a smaller fair, we kept it alive, thanks by a very large part to Janice's diligence and her focus on keeping us alive and moving and having many of you come out to the volunteer fair. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say, or take this opportunity to say, remember this, 9, 10, 11. September 10, 2011 is the next 3rd annual volunteer fair. We're going to keep it going, keep it alive, but we need you all to be there. Janice, it's been a pleasure working with you, not only as a student leadership, but now as a board member. We're very lucky to have you, so we're very excited to honor you, not only on behalf of the board, but the entire community.
Thank you. My name is Ken Meager, president of the leadership of Morgan Hill Board. And now my speech is going to be much more short, because I was going to give a nice plug for Volunteer Morgan Hill, but you did a great job. Okay. Yeah, we are so proud and lucky to have Victor on our board. He was in the class of 2009, and immediately after graduating, he got recruited onto the board. Very active board member. His leadership and vision has brought technological tools to the board. We now have social media available. We have a Facebook presence. We have a YouTube channel, we have a blog, we have an ever-evolving website. That's all, and we tweet too, for those of you who tweet. And that's all really due to Victor's leadership and vision for Leadership Morgan Hill. So thank you, Victor. And actually, Victor grew up in Morgan Hill, and he, at an early age, got to travel the world, and he went away to school at UCLA, and he worked in different cities across the country. And actually at UCLA, he met his wife, Kim, who also grew up in Morgan Hill, curiously enough. They met in UCLA. But several years ago, they actually decided to come back to Morgan Hill and raise their family here. So we are so lucky to have Victor Gaxiola and his family here with us in Morgan Hill. Thanks, Victor.
I am so happy this afternoon to be among you and to tell you about some abundance that came to 6 years ago, that came to the Learning and Loving Education Center with the heart and presence of both of these women, Sister Patricia Ann Clordy, a member of my community, and Susan Wilson, who many of you know because she's so active in Morgan Hill as a marriage family lawyer. Both Sister Patricia Ann and Susan helped us grow. They planted many seeds. They challenged us to keep watering. They brought a lot of wisdom to our group, which spilled over into our beautiful program of ESL for wonderful immigrant women and our preschool program. Their love and how they helped us to learn, to move, and grow is deeply appreciated. So I honor them today. Thank you.
Presenting the next award will be the Downtown Association.
I'm George Briones. I'm the Executive Director of the Morgan Hill Downtown Association, and over the last 4 years, I've had the honor of coming to this event, but I've always been fortunate to be able to sit at the table and not have to get up and do this part of it. Today, I'm fortunate to be able to do it because usually it's our president of our board that takes this position and presents. But today it is the president of our board who is our awardee and our recipient. Eric Wallace, if you haven't seen the picture that's up there, there's kind of a quiet smile that's there. It's confident, it's very warm. He also has a bit of an aloha Hawaiian shirt on, and that's probably very appropriate for today because Eric, unfortunately, can't be with us. He is in Hawaii on a scheduled vacation. But when the board first thought about who would be the recipient for this award this year, I asked that they send me the emails, and I was flooded with emails that just kept saying Eric Wallace, Eric Wallace, Eric Wallace. And it couldn't be more appropriate because that same comforting smile, that very warm personality, throughout the downtown, Eric does more to contribute on a daily basis as not only a business in downtown, but a resident of downtown. He is, to many people, known as the MC for the Thursday Street Dance. He volunteers at various events to, whether it's at a beverage booth or setting up or tearing down, and he spends countless hours meeting with the merchants and the residents of downtown. For me personally, he is a mentor and a great friend, along with being a fantastic role model, and I'm very pleased and very proud and honored to be able to accept for Eric on his behalf. Nobody tell him that I got this, so but Eric Wallace, fantastic person. On his behalf, thank you very much for the honor.
It is my honor to introduce the AARP Tax Aid Preparation Team from the Centennial Recreation Senior Center. This group prepares and files income taxes free of charge for seniors in the South County. The team consists of 6 individuals: Bruce Tupper, Kip Turley, Dave Hall, Don Avery, Donna Ferrante, and Bob Lexfold. In the words of Jimmy Kimmel, when it comes to taxes, there are 2 types of people. There are those that get it done early, also known as the psychopaths, sorry. And then the rest of us. Well, this team begins meeting in November, before the rest of us are even thinking about taxes. I am so impressed with the selfless dedication that this group exhibits. Each of these volunteers must train for many, many hours before being certified as IRS tax counselors. They prepare taxes for the senior centers twice a week from the beginning of February until April 15th. Last year alone, they helped over 240 seniors file returns. Between all 6 of these committed volunteers, they have amassed over 40 years of experience. Of course, one of the essential elements for any volunteer work is to have fun. They know how to have fun, they know how to work and have fun with the seniors, and they take much of the angst out of filing taxes. However, they don't have to write the check. So, a heartfelt thank you goes to all of you from the seniors that you've helped, and for those you will continue to help in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Bob Malta, It's my honor and privilege to be the Rotary Club president this year. For those of you who may not know much about Rotary, Rotary is a worldwide fellowship of business and community leaders. We are bound by a common desire to provide service to those in need. Globally, we are one of 32,000 Rotary clubs located in more than 200 countries that initiate service projects to address today's challenges, including illiteracy, disease, hunger, poverty, lack of clean water, and environmental concerns. Rotary International is only $50 million away from eradicating polio from planet Earth. This is the largest humanitarian effort in world history. Locally, the Rotary Club of Morgan Hill has provided benches and tables at Harvey-Bear County Park, the bulletin board at the Morgan Hill Dog Park, bench and world clock at the new library, contributed to the renovation and landscaping effort at Villa Monte, Rebecca's Children Home, the El Toro Youth Center, and the enclosure right outside these doors. Furthering the youth in our community has always been a hallmark of the Rotary Club of Morgan Hill. And we provide between $10,000 and $21,000 scholarships to high school seniors every year. David De La Cuesta, you have been instrumental in initiating and bringing forth the idea of community and world peace among the youth in our community through our Rotary projects with your passion and your God-given talents. Moreover, you instill in them a sense of pride and the ideal of serving others. We cannot thank you enough. Sandy De La Cuesta, every organization that has revenue of any kind needs accountability, and you provide that literally and figuratively. Aside from chairing our club's major fundraiser, Dazzle, for 4 years in a row, you manage 3 bank accounts for our club, prepare monthly treasurer's reports, and have been appointed the highest honor in our club 10 years in a row, that of honorary member. David and Sandy, on behalf of the Morgan Hill Community Foundation and the Rotary Club of Morgan Hill, it's my distinct honor to pronounce both of you the well-earned title of Philanthropist of the Year.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marilyn Levers, and I'm the Executive Director of the Prashant Research Foundation. Many of you know me wearing a different hat, but actually I have a day job, and this is it. So I am honored to present Mr. Brad Leach, who is a founding member of our Board of Directors and the current Chairman of the Board. Many years ago, when Mr. Prashant wanted to start a foundation that would advance medical research, business research, scientific research, Brad was instrumental in forming the nonprofit that allows us to do this work. I work with him on a daily basis, and I can't tell you what a pleasure it is. He is always generous of his time, his ideas, his suggestions, and it's been an excellent experience for myself, and our board has grown. And the amount of money we've been able to donate globally is so impressive for this small town. So my heart goes out to Brad and a sincere thank you. And I am honored to honor him today as our awardee of Volunteer of the Year. Thank you, Brad.
Presenting the next award will be the Morgan Hill.
Hi, I'm Linda Cunningham. I'm the current chair of the Morgan Hill Dollars Group. I want to thank the Morgan Hill Community Alliance for sponsoring this event, which allows members of the community and organizations like us to honor those that give back. With that in mind, I want to introduce you to Daphne Roberts Hamilton, who's our honoree for this event. Daphne has been with the group pretty much from its onset, and that includes the period of time it took the group to do all the fundraising to get the dog park built. Once it was built, she came onto the board as our vice chair and is really our communications liaison. She's the one that maintains all of our email communications. She keeps a Yahoo groups, maintains our Yahoo groups communication. She also has just recently taken on the job of doing our website and everything that goes along with that. Daphne also does other forms of give back to the community. She also does volunteer work in fostering for the Silicon Valley Humane Society. And she also, you're going to have to help me again with the name, does
Guardian Angels for Soldiers' Pets. So when soldiers are deployed, I help transition those dogs into new families, either because it's stressful for the dog going to a new home or if they have other pets in the house, so I help with the transition.
Yes, and she also provides, she is a certified professional dog trainer, and she gives back to the community also with our group by sponsoring events to help people learn their dogs and their dog behavior. She also provides these services to some of the local veterinaries for either no cost or low cost. So I'm very pleased to be able to honor her because she's a very important member of our group and is very responsible for giving back to the community.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Johnson, and I am the current president of the Morgan Hill Wind Symphony. Before I go any further, I'd like to do a little poll here. How many people have ever heard of the Morgan Hill Wind Symphony? Raise your hands. Now leave those hands up. No, not this easy. How many people of those that have got their hands up have ever been to a concert of the Morgan Hill? Oh, look at all those hands go down. Okay. So, without going too much further, because we're here really to honor our honoree and not the group, but just so you know, we are the best kept secret in Morgan Hill. We will have a Christmas concert, which you can go to our website and check us out and find out when it's going to be. We've not negotiated the exact date with the Playhouse yet, but each Christmas we put on a Christmas concert in the Playhouse. It's a lovely evening. It's a free concert. Guys, cheating. keep that in mind. Very impressive though. I won't say about dinner though, that's up to you. Okay, now I'd like to ask you also a couple other questions. See if you could recognize this person. He's been around the world 1.5 times. He is a past president of the Morgan Hill Downtown Association. He has flown a hang glider solo. He's insane. No, that's not written here. He has written a book. He has volunteered on Morgan Hill Blue Ribbon panels and 2 commissions. He met his wife while marching in a Cal Poly Mustang halftime show. I'm not going to go any further on that story. I'll let you figure that one out. Or you can ask Bev about it later. He creates gallery artwork out of recycled materials. He has been stuck in 3 different elevators. What do you need one for? You're so darn tall. Jeez. He could not just learn a typical musical instrument. It had to be tuba. He loves exploring and rock hounding. He has restored an important Morgan Hill cultural resource, a historic Victorian home, which I'm sure many of you have seen it right over here a few blocks over. Actually, it's in our backyard. He listens to all of the Friday night series, all of the Saturday night things out here in the plaza. So it's got a great location, up close and personal. He has hooked black marlin in the Indian Ocean. He has volunteers at Morgan Hill Schools and Historical Society. He is presently a Boy Scout leader. And the last one I say, but it's certainly not the least. He has performed with and is one of the 2 founding members of the Morgan Hill Wind Symphony for well over 20 years. Dawn, and actually is my daughter, Katie, who now is a mother in her own right and was a teacher for about 4 or 5 years before she had a baby. They started together back in about 1992, 1993, when the group was founded at the Morgan Hill Presbyterian Church. Dawn was there, and actually Bev was one of the original players as well, but because of
some difficulty with some of her nerves in her hand. She can no longer play clarinet. Dawn has been there through the thick and the thin. We went through growing pains in the early 90s into the late 90s, and finally around 1997, 1998, we broke off from the umbrella of the Presbyterian Church, took on as our own organization, and then eventually came under the umbrella of the Morgan Hill Community Foundation, which we are very, very grateful and enjoy a relationship with the foundation. And we thank them that they are offering us the possibility to use their technical facilities, the 501(c), and the other things that they offer to us in our organization.
Hello, my name is Sue Howell, and it's my great privilege to introduce you to Frank Pantosi, who has been volunteering with WERC, the Wildlife Education Rehabilitation Center, for about 5 years. He has become such an integral part of our organization by doing maintenance. Oh, such a lovely title. But if there's a crack in the hose or hole in the hose, a cage door stuck, Frank comes along, and on Tuesdays, he's known as Tuesday, and he comes down and he will do this repair work. His creativity has gone beyond just building an enclosure by himself for an animal to where he has designed and made a beautiful exercise wheel for educational possum to keep her in shape. He works with the educational animals, and he's been seen all around town in front of Safeway. He's been Taste of Morgan Hill, 4th of July parade, but also he does the rehabilitation. And he works with eagles to hawks to owls, making sure that these animals are handled properly, given the medication, bandage treatments, anything that is needed. He is there also to do that. And on a recent adventure for him, he took a baby bobcat that had come to us from Morro Bay. And as with all the bobcats, they must go back to where they come from once they're grown. And he traveled down to Morro Bay to make sure that bobcat was released in a beautiful location. So on behalf of all the humans and critters at WERC, we thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Really appreciate having the opportunity to honor one of our key leadership members. About 3 years ago, we got the idea that the Silicon Valley chapter, which is headquartered in San Jose, was just too far away from many of the communities that it serves. And the response and the work that we do is always very personal and very local. We invented this crazy idea called local councils. And we had a group here in Morgan Hill that looked like our first folks that we could convince to start doing this crazy idea. And they accepted it. And over the last 2 or 3 years, they have invented a pretty amazing thing. So we have a local council, a South Valley Council, that is responsible for all the services that we deliver here in the South County. We've made it local and very personal. So you don't have to go 20 miles to San Jose to take a first aid and CPR class. And when it comes time in disasters to open shelters, those are going to be open pretty quick. The person that spearheaded this development effort and that is our leadership person for the council, we're honoring today, is Tom Tanner. Our latest development, and through all the trials and tribulations, and believe me, we didn't have a model to go from, we just had this crazy idea. But he's developed with his team the model that we use and the way that we do the procedures and the business and everything else. And many of you know that it just doesn't fall into place naturally. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get worked out, especially in the volunteer organization. So we now have a presence here, the strongest we've ever had at the Friendly Inn. We have offices in the classroom over there. And all of that really was spearheaded under the leadership, tutelage, patience, and wisdom of Mr. Tom Tanner, who we're honoring today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Takayama. I'm one of the advisors for Teachers Aid Coalition. And it's a group of interested local citizens who want to do their part in helping our classroom teachers manage what they can given the situations that they have. Every year, you know, the budgets are cut. And so we do fundraisers to gather these supplies and arrange arrange the giveaways at various school facilities. Now, Roger Boyu, he himself has been a long-time teacher. And in fact, if you really want to get the scoop on some of his former pupils like Greg Sellers, and Jim Perkins, and Victor, come and see Roger after the meeting. We'll be glad to discuss that. But in the beginning, and in fact, we were one of the first organizations to go under the wings of the Morgan Hill Community Foundation. For that, we're very grateful. We couldn't operate without their help. But in the beginning, we had the type of leaders that you would expect, that, like Greg Sellers mentioned, you needed guys who could dig and sow the seeds and plant the plants. We had Ray Jimenez and Bob Davis, and pretty soon we had a structure going there. But they weren't too good at taking care of the plants, and we needed somebody who could make the arrangements for the school district, make the arrangements for getting publicity out, arrange our meetings, and Roger was the man to do that. And without a function like this, where you have a lot of these leaders who do things that are not above the ground like some of our more visible leaders are, people like Roger will never be recognized, and we're very grateful for this opportunity. And to put the exclamation point on the type of leader that Roger is, you know, Marilyn Monroe would never associate herself with anybody but leaders. And so Roger asked me to because his beautiful wife is sitting next to him, that he wanted to explain what this picture was about.
Last year, we did our fundraiser at Clos de Champs Winery, and it was Magnificent Merlot. The theme was Merlot, and Marilyn Merlot was involved. There she is, and Marilyn just happened to be a former student of mine, and we had a really good time. I really need to explain that to my wife. But it was a really fun evening. And, our next fundraiser is going to be held here at the granary in town, and we're looking forward to around mid-February, and it's going to be a wine and chocolate tasting and art event, and you'll hear a lot more about it, okay? And I also need to tell you that I was also elected president because I missed a meeting.
Good afternoon, my name is Joan Delmajori, and we're honoring Fran Hendrickson today for Reach Out, which the program was established in 1982. Reach Out provides emergency food. We are helping, at this time, 400 plus families a month. We have at least 70 volunteers. Fran coordinates the volunteers that work on a daily basis. She coordinates the volunteers who pick up bread and pastries during the week from Safeway. She coordinates the volunteers who help unload the Second Harvest food bank truck. She orders online the food from Second Harvest Food Bank. She drives her truck to Nob Hill to pick up food and meat that we don't always get from Second Harvest Food Bank. She files all the reports to the Second Harvest Food Bank. What else? Everybody think of everything that you do.
She recruits volunteers.
Yeah, she recruits volunteers, and she works tirelessly, I have to say, since 1982. That's a lot of years, and our success is due to her dedication.
And all these people too. All the volunteers. We're all volunteers. Joan's done this as long as I have. And Jane Glass too, we've got so many years. And she's still working Reach Out. And Debbie and Jane and Carmen and say we've got 70 wonderful people that help us every month, and we couldn't do it without all the volunteers. And all the help from the community who are always donating, we really appreciate that.
ladies and gentlemen, volunteers. We're all in this together, and we are very happy to be with you. I'm Bob Hunt, and I'm here to tell you about our organization and our honoree, Charles Weston. It is a privilege for these members of our nonprofit educational group, Independence Day Celebrations organizations, to be with you. We, like you, are a not-for-profit, community-based group of public-spirited volunteers in Morgan Hill. We take pride in being the best and largest old-fashioned hometown Independence Day parade in all of California, and are the official Santa Clara County 4th of July parade. Now, in addition to that, we have 11 other events celebrating the birth of our wonderful nation, and that's because we need all of these events to help raise the funds. And we'll ask you for some help too. I am getting rid of half of my speech there because we don't have a lot of time. A couple more things to do. Our honoree is Charles Weston of Weston Miles Architect. And Charles has done a lot for our community in his business and with our 4th of July group. He's been volunteering with us since 2001 and is chair of the runs, 5K, etc. He has been instrumental in raising funds through the 2 run walks, which have helped pay a good percentage of the parade expenses, which are considerable. He has accepted the position of the president of the group and is doing an excellent job of heading the planning for the next 3 years. Mr. Charles Weston, honoree of the Independence Day, has a few words to share with you now. Charles.
Thank you very much, Bob. And I'm really honored to be the representative for the IDI and getting honored this year for the philanthropic honoree of the group. And as Bob said, I've been in the group for a while. I started with the 5K and worked myself up. And no, I didn't miss a meeting and became president. I wanted to become president because I feel it's an incredible organization. We have over 300 volunteers. Bob actually told me that we have over 500, but I'm going to be conservative. I'm sure most of you...
504!
504, exactly. That's how many t-shirts we ordered. Anyways, on the 4th of July, we reaffirm our commitment to freedom, liberty, and freedom of choice. One of our greatest documents, the Declaration of Independence, was supposedly signed on July 4th. It's not really great, but... And on that defining moment, who we are is celebrated, and on that day, the Independence Day Celebration Committee plans activities throughout the day to continually remind us of our heritage and our reconfirm our commitment to those principles. We have been, as Bob mentioned, in the community for over 100 years, and we, and Bob rather, can document that. He even thinks that there was a run 100 years ago. That is hard to believe, but in 2001 I helped the race director at the time, our mayor, help with the 5K, and from that point on I've continued to help. But we do need your support. Each year we need to raise over $90,000 to carry on the expenses for the parade, the fireworks, and for the community sing. And we'd appreciate your support in the future. Thank you very much.
President of the Friends of the Library, which celebrated its 35th anniversary last year. And yes, I'm Sandy. Since January, the Friends have been fortunate enough to be able to direct almost $60,000 to the library to pay for some items that are outside of the scope of the county budget, including funding a part-time Spanish-speaking librarian,
thousands of books for various programs, including the very successful summer reading program that was had record-breaking participants amongst children, teens, and adults this year, to shelving and displays and other furnishings. So we're very proud of that. We make our money not through our memberships, even though we have about 175 or so members. We have 85 regular dedicated volunteers who are tremendous because they actually have job descriptions and they have work schedules to the point that if they don't come in to volunteer, they have to find a substitute. So we're very, very fortunate to have the support of these volunteers in the community, and I just want to say thank you to Peggy Basso and her team at the library. Peggy is our community librarian for making our library, a beautiful library, such a valuable resource for everybody. So Mary Ringo has been a volunteer for the Friends for 15 years. So she's our longest serving volunteer. She helps out in many ways, but primarily we pick her brain. She is our pricing expert and works through tens of thousands of books because of the fact that she's such a voracious reader. She knows the value of books that we sell in our bookstore, also online, and also at our big book sale, which we have one on Saturday. Come to the program room and visit us. You can congratulate Mary there as well. But the beauty of Mary the volunteer is the fact that her knowledge is all up here. We all depend on technology these days, but Mary is able to very efficiently price books just because she knows their value. And I'm not saying that because we're using a hand-me-down computer, but she really is just helpful to the point that we are able to make about $1,000 per week in sales because she handles almost all of those books. So thank you and congratulations to Mary.
Well, all the energy back here is amazing. To be the last one, it feels like I should have a joke or something, but I don't. So I will go. My name is Dorothy Ross, and I work for Child Advocates of Silicon Valley, also known across the country as CASA, or Court Appointed Special Advocates. It is my honor today, and an awesome honor it is, to present to you Linda Mitchell. Linda is one of over 300 advocates or volunteers in Santa Clara County who work with children in the dependency of the foster care system. Linda has been a child advocate since 2004, is currently working with her third advocate child, soon to select a fourth advocate child when her case completes. Linda is an amazing advocate in the sense that she not only looks to the welfare of the basic needs of her advocate children, their education, their health and well-being, but she gives them the opportunity to experience fun things like going to a horse ranch or cooking class that they take, going to the library, working on computer skills, getting into dance and gymnastics, working on all of the things that will help them have a happier today as well as a brighter future. Linda participates in community events. She just recently was here at the Morgan Hill Volunteer Fair helping to recruit advocates. We do have a lot of children in South County who need volunteers, who need advocates to work with them in the child welfare system. Linda has been a right-hand person for me in helping to recruit and establish a base for child advocates and volunteers in South County. Couldn't have done it without you. And in a room full of people who give and volunteer and show an amazing example of those who serve, Linda is a tremendous example of someone who makes a difference in the lives of the children and the families of people that she serves. So it is a tremendous honor to give this award to Linda Mitchell.